Welcome to Michigan Memories Radio with Mike Hewitt and Matt Wiedenhoft. We're focused on the 60s and 70s with a heavy sprinkle of the last 100 years. From Ironwood to Port Huron, Detroit to Traverse City, Harbor Beach to St. Joseph, at all points in between of our great state. We are Michigan Memories Radio, a politics-free radio show. We want everyone to feel at home here. Let's revisit the very best of the good times together. Call us live or post and comment on our Facebook group page.
Folks, I am Mike Hewitt, co-host Matt Wiedenhoff. Matt, welcome back.
What's up?
Listen, we got a lot of stuff. There's a lot of memories. We have got to dive into them. Are you ready?
I love this stuff. So I'm always ready.
You ever been to Oxford, Michigan?
No.
You ever heard of the Lone Ranger?
Yeah, Tonto.
Idaho Silver.
Yeah.
Lived in Oxford.
Really?
Yeah. That show started out at WXYZ TV in Detroit, and he actually lived out on a ranch in Oxford. And my dad knew him. His name was Brace Beamer. Lots of folks in the community knew him. It was a big deal, I think.
Yeah, I mean, anytime somebody's famous from Michigan, we make a big deal out of it.
Well, listen, but there's a lot of famous people from Michigan. But when I can't be, that would be political. Bob Seger, you knew he's from Michigan.
Yeah, I knew that.
And before the show started, folks, Matt and I debated Serena Williams. Tell the folks who won the debate.
Okay, let's do something here. Okay, this is one of those where it does drive me crazy in Michigan. She's from Michigan.
She is from Michigan.
She moved to Compton when she was like 3.
But where was she born? Saginaw, Michigan.
Yeah, but where's she known for being from?
I don't know. She was born in Saginaw.
Is Abraham Lincoln from Illinois?
Yeah.
No, he's not.
There's a log cabin there.
He was
you can go
born in
visit.
Kentucky.
You can go visit the log
But
cabin.
he was born in Kentucky.
I can't help that. Guess who else was born in Kentucky?
Jack Daniels.
Jefferson Davis.
Oh.
Both of those two guys were born in the same state, and that state stayed neutral. Steven Seagal, I did not know he was from Michigan.
No, I had no idea.
And he is literally. Christy Brinkley, I knew that.
Really? Where at?
I don't know the city, but I knew from Michigan. I think Rochester, but I might be wrong. So,
Madonna?
Yeah, and I didn't even look her up. I'm sorry. I'm not.
You know you were a material girl back in the 80s.
I really
Look at this guy. You know he was a material girl back then.
Jared, you're supposed to be on my team, man.
I'm trying.
yeah.
He's really trying hard to stay on the sidelines.
Oh, man. Kid Rock, he's still very actively Michigan.
Well, yeah, I mean, he loves this state. You know who you don't have on there?
Huh.
Tim Allen.
Oh, no, he's one of my favorites.
Man,
too.
I love Tim Allen.
Yep, you're good point.
You know what? His brother
Yep.
was my teacher for mass media in high school.
Literally.
Yeah. Do you know what their last name really is? Dick.
Okay.
So they took all their middle names as their last names.
So the two brothers have different last names.
The whole family, I think there's 9 of them.
They all changed.
They all took their middle name as their last name and dropped the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, his brother was my teacher in high school. He was awesome.
Wow.
Here's one that surprised me is Charles Lindbergh.
I didn't know that at all.
I did not know that. In fact, you questioned me on Serena Williams, but when I got to Charles Lindbergh, I did some extra searching because I was not convinced.
Yeah.
But he's from Michigan.
How about the voice of Vader?
I would have never
James Earl
done.
Jones?
James Earl Jones.
From Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
From
about,
Caliva,
you
small
know,
town.
do you know who Richard Keel is?
I know that name.
Yeah, same here.
It's a big deal now.
So big that we're not sure.
Listen, Adam's Family, he was Lurch.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He was on one of the James Bond movies. He was in a number of.
Wasn't he the Metal Mouth in the James Bond?
Yep, that's him.
Oh, okay. Wasn't he in Happy Gilmore?
Possibly. I
He
can't.
was.
quite-
He was. He was in several big, memorable movies.
I'll meet you in the parking lot, shooter.
Yeah. That's funny. Anyway, the moral of it, there was a lot of big folks from. In fact, there was a list of 30 that I found, and it didn't even have the names that you mentioned on it.
Well, I mean, like Madonna, how do you, I know, like, forget everything about her personally, news and all that stuff, but just her career coming out of Detroit and being really the queen of
I
pop.
think she was actually from Rochester also.
Yeah, she always claims Detroit. But
Detroit.
listen, Michigan's 3 areas, okay? You got West Michigan, West Forest, Lansing, and then everything from Howell over is Detroit, and then the UP.
See, when I moved to West Michigan,
Am I wrong, Jared?
No, you're
no, he's
pretty
right.
correct.
He's right, but this is one of those geography things. So 23 years ago, I moved my family from southeastern Michigan to the Grand Rapids area. And then I got a job. I go to work and people say, where are you from? And I tell them where I'm from. And they'd say, oh, Detroit. No, that's not what I said. I'm from Lapeer. Oh, yeah, Detroit. No.
Yeah, that's a very West
Any-
Michigan answer.
Yep.
Anything east of Lansing is Detroit.
Oh, that's even Flint. That's not even Detroit. Up
Every-
here.
It's exactly right. And I'm going, no, how do you get that out of that?
But it is. People will be like, "Oh, I'm from Brighton." I'm like, "Oh, Detroit." No, no, no. It's Brighton. I'm like, "Okay, you're the rich part of Detroit. Calm down."
Although the suburbs, I mean,
And Tim Allen had to be on that list.
he should have been. That was my bad.
No, like the 30 list of 30 though. Like
He really wasn't on.
that's
there.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Part of it is, this is one of those things to the author goes the favorites.
yeah,
So if I wrote a list of 30, Madonna wouldn't be on it.
yeah.
And it wouldn't be a slight against her. I don't like that genre. It's
Yeah,
got
you don't-
nothing to do with her.
You don't think of that.
I
Time.
wouldn't have thought of her.
How about Jeff Daniels?
Jack Daniels?
Jeff Daniels,
Oh,
the actor. He's also from around here. And
What's
then
what
Dax-
does he do?
he's an actor.
I got that part. Name something he's been in, because I don't remember his name.
Dumb and Dumber.
No wonder I don't remember his name.
But that was his only like comedy role. He was,
Other than that, he was a serious actor.
yeah, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in a movie called Blown Away. He was in Speed.
Yep.
Speed.
Yep.
He was in that movie. He's pretty known. And then I can't remember her name, but her husband's name is Dax. She's from Grand Haven.
Right.
Oh, Kristen Bell.
Yeah, Kristen
Yeah.
Bell. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
married
she's-
to Dax Shepard.
Yeah, she's more recent, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's from Grand Haven. That's even smaller.
That's really small.
Yeah.
Getting bigger though. Tell me
Oh,
this.
wasn't there a president from here?
That
I think there
That-
might have been one.
that would be President Ford, right?
He probably
Right.
didn't make the list though.
No,
Overlooked.
he's not. No, he didn't. But listen, I think he was actually born somewhere else.
Yeah.
He was to an adopted family, and I can't remember the story anymore. But he was played on our state football team. He was a big deal.
His
back then.
library's here.
Yeah, got a library. Oh yeah.
Have you ever been to it?
I've not been to the library, but I can tell you a short funny on the way is that he had at the Amway Grand, he had an apartment at the top of the Amway Grand.
Really?
And I've been in that apartment. So when you go to the apartment, they're going, okay, this is where the Secret Service slept. But it was Ford's place in Grand Rapids.
The name of Grand's been there quite a while.
Well, we're talking a long time.
Yeah.
So listen, have you ever been to the Pontiac Silverdome?
You know, I drove by before they destroyed it, but no, I'd never actually been in it.
I got to tell you, what if you go to actually both the Michigan Memories Facebook page or where we started at was Pontiac Waterford Memories on Facebook, and that when I say we, that's where what grew into this show is those two groups. But if you go and look at what the histories, folks sharing stories about the Pontiac Silverdome. I watched it be built. I was a kid, a teenager, riding. Not even. I am old. Driving not a car. Driving my 10-speed.
What's a 10-speed?
There, you don't know what a 10-speed is.
Well, I do, but just
I know
Jared-
what a 10-speed is.
What is
yeah,
it?
he's not a kid.
It's a bicycle with 10 gear settings.
Okay, but you ride bikes, don't you? You mountain
Yes.
bike.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's,
okay.
he's not. He's an adult. He gets
Yeah,
it.
anybody from like 1985 and younger is probably not going to know what 10-speed is.
85. By the time I got to 85, I had 3 of my 4 daughters were already born.
I know. Thanks for proving you're old.
No, I was still at 2, but close to number 3. Listen, Pontiac Silverdome, I watched it get built. Then, of course, to your point, I'm old, so I watched it get built and I watched them tear it down. But the stories in between are fantastic. When I was young, to your constant reminder, I used to go to a lot of rock concerts. And the best rock concert I've ever been to at any location, and by the way, any genre, was at the Silverdome.
Who was it?
It was Elvis Presley.
I knew you were going to say that because I
Yeah.
think you've told me that before.
Listen, I got to tell you,
That's
though,
really cool. You got to see Elvis live.
it was cool seeing him live. But what was fascinating about it, because I've been to the Beach Boys and I've hard rock, old Metallica, in fact, Metallica, all kinds
You
of
went and
things.
see Metallica?
Oh yeah, and everything in between. Used to love going to rock concerts.
Oh.
But that one was, when we're talking about memories, if you're standing there, I'm sitting there, still in high school, put the age on it, and the folks that were in attendance literally ranged from about 8 years old to about 80 years old.
Yeah.
We're talking spreading out several generations of people going crazy. So they got this guy up on a 10-foot stage to keep the folks from mauling him.
Yeah.
And of course, and they got the path that goes out through across the green down to one of what would have been, I don't remember which end of the football field, but they bring him in a limousine down this path. You can't see him. And then when Elvis has left the building and all that, for energy, and that's really what I'm measuring when I say memorable,
Yeah,
or the best. The raw energy was better at that than any other concert I've been to. And I've been in them where people were all stoned and there was no energy at all.
well, yeah,
Everybody's going, wow, is this cool, man?
Yeah,
That's your energy level.
throwing on Little Debbie's and Cheetos everywhere. That was their energy.
Tripping over each other to get them.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of concerts, but I went and saw Janet Jackson once at Van Andel in Grand Rapids.
Yep.
And what was cool was the opening act was Usher. I know you have no idea who these people are.
I saw
Jared knows though.
I saw Peter, Paul, and Mary at the Van Andel.
Didn't they sing Puff the Magic Dragon?
They did.
Yes.
Exactly.
If you're curious, I was not there by choice.
You probably just got
Okay.
led there.
Yeah.
But I went and saw Kid
Ordered
Rock
there.
at the second day of opening of Little Caesars.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
The energy level you're talking about
Yep.
was just phenomenal. And it was so cool.
Tell
But I
me
can't
again,
imagine if Silverdome, that place was huge.
it was, according to Elvis, it was the biggest live audience at that point he'd ever been in front of.
Wow.
I
That's
mean, he
cool.
did the Aloha concert, but was mostly televised.
Yeah.
That was international, so there was more eyeballs. But in terms of live, he was, I think, by the time it got done, he was the second largest that place had ever seen.
So the second greatest person ever do anything at the Silverdome was who?
Listen, I like ZZ Top.
Barry Sanders.
And you know what? Listen, I went to a lot of football games there, but of course, I'm talking when I'm teens and young 20s.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in trouble doing Michigan memories on this, but
Oh,
I was and still am a big Minnesota Viking fan.
I'm sorry. I think you cut out. We got a little glitch. What was that again?
So I don't know why I blame it on
Fran
my.
Tarkington?
Yeah, Fran the man.
Oh, man. Come on. Barry Sanders, probably the best running back of all
I
time.
take nothing from him. I've just never been a Lions.
And I'm
fan.
not either. But when I moved to Michigan,
When I went to the Silverdome to a football game, I went to the Minnesota Vikings game.
jeez,
And I didn't even care who the other team was.
I think we just got kicked off YouTube.
And listen, the benefit though is that I always knew the Vikes they're gonna win.
Well, yeah, it's the Lions.
I mean, they're gonna win. Watch.
Lions haven't won a championship since 1949.
Yeah.
And back then it was just called an NFL championship.
Yeah, that's true. That's too funny. So tell me though, what did you say was that a Little Caesars event?
Yeah, it was at the Little Caesars Arena.
Do you know where the first Little Caesars was opened?
I know it was in Michigan because the Illich family's from here, but I
Yep.
don't know the exact
Yep.
city.
Garden City.
I've heard that, yes.
Garden City, 1959. They had one. Last I saw the measure, I think they're at 548 stores
Wow.
from a guy that him and his brand new bride opened one. And I got to give it to him. When you see someone that can do that with their life, I got to meet him. In fact, I sat in the back of a limousine with Mike Ilitch and own the sports team, et cetera, et cetera. But you had to give some respect to someone that built themselves up that way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know what's ironic is there's the second largest pizza chain also from Michigan.
Right.
You know what it is?
Domino's.
Domino's.
Yep.
Yeah. And actually, if you ask them, they're not even a pizza company. They're a delivery company.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't specialize in pizza. They specialize in delivery.
So when you think of Pontiac Silverdome, because I don't want to leave there yet, when you think of the Silverdome, you think of football and concerts, right?
Yeah.
Now, I've been to the Silverdome at a gun show that filled the football field from side to side to end. It was a gun show.
That's massive.
It was a huge gun show. Now I'm in the late 70s, maybe even early 80s. They had several, but they also used that parking lot for drivers training. So if you wanted to get some, nowadays it'd be YouTube or TikTok or whatever. If you want to get some funny videos, you go sit out there with of course, none of that existed then, but watching the new drivers. And just to really add it up, after you finished watching the student drivers learn, you could come back later and watch the Pontiac police and other police departments practice aggressive driving, how to do four-wheel drifts, how to spin cars around, how to stop, and how to use the
and after they were gone, you could come watch me practice do four-wheel drifts.
Speed Racer strikes again. But my point in bringing you there is that they use that thing for a lot. And I don't want to get political, but I never understood how when they finally came to the end of its life, they ran out of things to do with it. I thought, how can you not see things to do with it? Because they filled it from the 70s and the 80s. I mean, jammed it with something going on all the time, like the gun show versus the police department. I went to a home and garden show there that filled the field, and
Wow.
it was out of this world spectacular.
Well, I think once they built Ford Field, there was the need for it, and look at the population around that area, Pontiac and stuff. It's dwindled.
Yep.
So I mean, they tore down the Palace,
Yeah.
the Detroit Pistons arena,
I
because
saw
they couldn't find tenants for
and
it.
I saw Elton John at the Palace.
Really?
I did. In fact, I had seats that were so close that Elton's stage that he was sitting on was a riser.
Yeah.
And it literally came out away from the stage over the crowd. He was so close, I literally could have untied his shoes, sitting there with Miles Bauer.
Huh. I saw,
Yeah.
and this one, I got to see Michael Jordan play there.
Nice.
That was awesome.
That would have been
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, that really would have been fun.
To watch him warm up was like nobody else. Just it was incredible.
Hmm.
And I saw Grant Hill play too, but it was Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen and
Now you grew up. Remind me what state you grew up in.
Virginia.
Okay, so you didn't watch any. When did you move to Michigan?
93.
How old would you have been?
Almost 13. So I was
So
12.
you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Maybe right on the edge of the conversation I wanna have. And Jared, you're probably too young for it. When I was a kid growing up in the 60s, early 70s, all of the markets, so Grand Rapids, Traverse City, Detroit especially, but Flint, all of them had local television stars, for lack of better words. So I mean, almost all markets had a bozo. Did they have bozo wherever you were at?
Yeah, but it was on WGN. So it was the real, quote unquote, real Bozo the Clown from Chicago.
All of them had the real bozo.
But this was the real one
All of them had the
with
real.
Quick Cookie the Clown and Grand
Oh,
Prize
yeah.
Game.
Now, did you?
My brothers and I would get buckets out and set them out in the row of 6
Yep.
and get a ball and see who could get the closest. Can we win the grand prize? Because we love the Bozo show.
This was last week, folks, that he did that.
You know, we didn't. We were talking memories here. It didn't. You didn't say it couldn't be up until this afternoon.
Do you remember Oopsie?
No.
Don't remember Oopsie?
What is that?
He was another Detroit, in this case, Detroit TV personality. He was a clown. Oopsie the clown. I had to see it. Big, gigantic.
Was he
debut.
like the Aldi of clowns, or like Bozo would be the Meyer and
listen, there's
Oopsie's the Aldi, the discount one?
They were Bozo was more successful
Okay.
because he got syndicated.
Yeah.
That concept was shared all over. I don't know if Oopsie's was or not, but Oopsie didn't get as big as Bozo. And by the way, I'm not going to go politics, but I will make one clown observation. Clowns used to be a really big, funny thing. And now they're scary, evil, dark. I'm going, what the heck happened?
Movie It. Stephen King.
That redid it.
I think so.
I didn't watch.
I think he always had a fear of the clown, regardless if it was funny or not.
Everyone's always. I won't. Nah.
There's people afraid of you and clowns, and
Yeah, there you go.
you were going to get me, so I had to get you.
I backed out. You went right after.
Well,
me.
yeah, I got. You missed the jab. I counterpunched.
Yeah.
So, folks watching us from southeastern Michigan, and probably as far away as Flint, Saginaw, Bay City, maybe out as much as a lion's share of that half of the state, from Bay City down, will know Bill Kennedy at the movies, Rita Bell at the movies, and they were a show, but they did like a host thing wrapped around the show. In a minute, we're going to see movies with Cary Grant and whoever the other person was.
Why do you think we got away from this?
I know, listen, I wonder that about a lot of stuff. One of the things I want to retouch on with you today that we talked about last week, but I'm still wrestling with it because I honestly don't know why, unless it's liability or something that's just beyond me. But do you remember the Friendly Giant?
Sounds familiar.
Big guy talking through a castle window, and there was a giraffe head sitting in there talking to him.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
Those were big kid shows. But my point in bringing all those shows up, without even getting to Sonny Elliott, the weather guy, but all of the communities back when I was a kid had locally produced children's shows. And so rather than them just sitting watching Bugs Bunny, nothing against Bugs Bunny, but they had shows where they could they felt a relationship with the Friendly Giant.
Well, Mr. Rogers.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
I think those things were important.
You think it was cost? Because the cost of talent's much greater than cost of syndication. Buying the rights to a show to syndicate it rather than...
but listen, radios you and I are been in the radio business a long time. And me longer than you, because as you'd point out, I am older. But radios, and Jared, you're directly in it, living it. It's changed a lot in the last decade.
Yeah.
Part of it is internet. Part of it is cost of operation and production. So you used to go to WKRP in Cincinnati. They made that 1970s TV series out of it, but all the talent was local.
Yeah.
Now you walk into a station and there's still local talent, but it used to be 100% local. Now it's more like 10% local.
Well, I think like the number one morning drive show in Grand Rapids, there's one guy in Grand Rapids in the studio. There's another lady in Detroit, and then there's another one somewhere else in the state. And all three of them seamlessly do the show, but they're not even in the same studio.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever hear of Fireman Freddy?
No.
Never heard of him. Romper Room?
I've heard of Romper.
Romper Room was syndicated, or at least the concept was.
Yeah.
Miss Jean was one of the hosts. But I only bring those up just as a reference to, I think there was value in that for that young generation. Now I'm biased because I was part of that young generation, and maybe that's been replaced with other great stuff. I don't know.
Well, today you turn on the TV and there's 6,000 channels.
Yeah, there's lots of newer shows and stuff like that. But there are legacy shows like Sesame Street that are still going strong.
Yeah, they are. They are a good point. But for me, this is me. It's maybe because I'm 62, and we've got all the channels.
There's nothing on them.
I just the wife or I. Well, it used to be give me the remote.
Yeah.
You take the remote. I'm tired looking.
That's what
you
I
can
do.
surf for an hour and a half and not find anything.
You know what I do? I'll go through the guide, and first of all, I got like 24 channels favorited. I don't even look at the rest, and then I end up breaking out of it and go to Netflix or Hulu. Or
did you ever watch Archie Bunker?
I love that show. All in the Family.
So
Meathead.
My wife and I's debate this is you go through phases in life.
Yep.
This is our current phase. I'm watching all of the old sitcoms. So, and one of them goes to your point, Jared, about legacy. One of them is Archie Bunker, the All in the Family. I love it. I love the satirical humor.
Yeah.
I used to love Johnny Carson because he ragged on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
It wasn't,
It was comedy.
It was fun. It was funny. My wife says, I'll watch it, but you have to fast forward through the singing. She can't stand the singing. The opening of the show.
Was it Edith?
Edith and Archie are singing.
Oh gosh, she's so bad. She's like cats in an alley. But the Jeffersons came out of that show.
Several shows spun out of it.
Yeah, I love All in the Family.
Yep.
You ever seen it?
I have not.
There's no way it could be played today.
It's hard racial humor, but having said that, he's making fun of racists.
Mm.
Yeah.
In real life,
and sexist and everything else. Every other ism.
He's acting like he is that, but what he's doing is he's trying to demonstrate how stupid it sounds.
Right, that's the satire.
The guy spoke 7 different languages, highly educated,
Mm.
no dummy at all, but he was a great actor. And so I got people like my mother-in-law. I can't stand that show. I hated him. Well, she's a leftist. Well, but he agreed with you, and
yeah, it was.
But he was very satirical.
I don't look at those things. I just think of the funny. Like I'll laugh at a joke and be like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a funny joke. Don't take it so serious."
Oh no, it was a lot of fun back then. It was fun. But you could go from watching the Waltons,
Yeah.
for people with a memory. You ever watch the Waltons? You ever heard of the Waltons?
Nope.
Good night, John Boy.
Yeah, good night, Mary Elizabeth. So it was a family set in the 40s, actually during the Depression before the war.
Okay.
And they were somewhere down south in the
Like a
mountains,
right?
in
Yeah.
the mountains, Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah.
But they were fairly challenged. It was a Depression. And it was just the daily life of them.
And every show ended with all of them saying goodnight to each other.
Okay.
I never actually watched it. I just know it, obviously.
Well, listen,
memories,
I'm of course, same thing again. I was 12, 13, 14. My mother and sister loved it.
One of my favorite shows growing up was Who's the Boss? Do you ever watch that with
Yeah,
Tony
but that-
Danza and stuff?
Yeah, I did, but that was that 80s.
Yeah, it was 80s.
80s.
But that's me. I'm an 80s baby.
Remember the polling I did on the social media? You know, which is your favorite decade? 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. 80s got like one vote out of 100.
Well, it's because I told you those people were, not paying attention.
No, we were all.
But hey, so here's a good one for you. We used to mow lawns. My dad owned a lawn care landscape company in Virginia, and we would have to work on Saturdays to go cut corporations. He had big corporate jobs. We'd get home, and I remember as a kid, I love it. Still feel that memory today. We'd get home, we're filthy. We'd get showered at 7:30 at night. We'd come out living room, and Nick at Night would be on,
Right.
and Mr. Ed, and My Three Sons,
I remember Mr. Ed.
and that
Oh, yeah.
horse with its mouth. And have you ever seen Mr. Ed?
I have not.
It's the talking horse.
He's a talking horse, yeah.
And,
Okay.
and they would put peanut butter in its gums to make its mouth move.
Sure.
Yeah. Now you know what a Dutch door is, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So the top half opens,
Yep,
bottom
yep.
half stays. Then the top half opened, Mr. Edwood, the horse, would have his head stuck through the upper part of the Dutch door,
Gotcha.
and he'd be on a
The
conversation.
talking horse, of course.
You know, you know the song.
Oh yeah.
Good for you.
See, I know a lot of these older things because legacy, right? They
Yeah,
were
sure.
replaying it. Nick at Night was new, and Nick at Night. Now, if you go to Nick at Night, it's actually 90s shows. It's not even 50s, 60s, 70s anymore. But because I guess I'm getting that old now. But wow, Jared, thanks.
It happens.
Unfortunately, it does. It doesn't happen in your head though.
Yeah.
Only in your joints.
You know,
Definitely.
my dad. It's funny that you say that because my dad, he's gone now, but I remember like it was yesterday when he was sickly, had cancer, final 5-6 years. He'd point at himself. He'd say, "But I still feel 20 inside," and he was very sincere with that.
Yeah.
So, all right, listen. Let's change gears. Have you ever been to Fort Custer in Battle Creek?
Yeah.
You have been there.
Yep.
And do you know its history?
No.
So in the early 40s, it was christened, whatever the word would be. It became a permanent base.
Hmm.
So they did training for U.S. soldiers, and then in 44 they converted it to a German POW camp,
Really?
and it was the biggest of a whole bunch of POW prison
Now,
camps.
POW, not
Prisoner of
a.
war, German Nazi prisoner of war. So we took him prisoner in the battlefield
And then flew him over here.
and flew him to they had all over the U.S., but I only looked at Michigan.
Yeah.
So they say that we had an rolling average of about 6,000 German. And when I call them Nazis, most of these folks were just people that got,
Well, you had to fight.
you're in the army.
Yeah.
So I don't know what their ideologies were, but I know that here they were prisoners, about 6,000 of them. Fort Custer was the biggest, but they had roughly 5,000 at various bases in lower Michigan, and a bunch up in 1,000, more than 1,000 on average in the UP
Wow.
at a base. And the part I didn't know, and I knew that I didn't know where, I refer to it as the mitten. So 5,000 in the mitten, 1,000 in the UP. What I didn't know is that most of them were actually used on local farms as labor.
Oh.
And the reason they did that, first off, the Germans wanted to. It gave them something to do.
Yeah.
They ended up, many of the local farmers described these folks as being great to work with, hardworking, very intelligent. The Germans that left, went home, described it as we were well taken care of, not mistreated.
Now, you said the ones that left. I was going to say how many stayed.
I don't know how that went, but you can bet some of them did.
Yeah.
You can bet that happened. But I mean, they've got some of them that they actually, you can go get a tour of where they were. And I don't know if I want to do that tour, and I won't even go through that on the show. But I thought it was fascinating. I didn't realize it was that much. I mentioned Garden City for the first Caesars, Little Caesars. Do you know what else Garden City did the first of?
I can't think of it.
Come on,
No, I can't think of it. I think I know, but
you don't know. It's Kmart.
oh,
Were you
yeah,
were
no.
you Jared? Have you ever been in a Kmart?
I have.
I asked that because you are younger.
Yep.
And they've been about wiped out for quite some time.
Hmm.
In fact, I read what happened to them, and it seems like the going thought is that they could not compete with Walmart's business model.
Yeah.
And that Walmart inevitably drove them out.
Yeah.
I would have said it's a combination of Walmart and Target.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the fact that when I look at it, not to get on the business rant, but I thought, well, change the model then.
Yeah, but Sears is gone.
Well, because Sears bought them.
Yep, but Sears is gone. They didn't change their business model until it's too late.
They
They let
tried-
Amazon come in and take them over.
But they tried to change their model because they bought Kmart, thinking that they could remodel Kmart to compete with the box stores, and it ended up sinking both of them.
Well, I think too is they thought, okay, we're a higher end store, but they weren't perceived like that in the 90s and 2000s. They were considered more of a bargain store, but not a Kmart bargain. They weren't the Macy's or the Dillards or Neiman Marcus.
Do you remember a time when there were amusement parks in most of the communities?
It's funny you brought this up.
Well, Jared is going to, for him, he's going, we did this. I talked about it last week, but I'm still wrestling with it.
Yeah.
Because there were, listen, it wasn't like 10 years and it went away. It lasted from pre 1920 all the way into the mid 1980s when these groups, these businesses started folding up. Now, if you want to go, there's one on the west side of Michigan. The other noteworthy one is in Ohio.
Yeah.
It used to be almost every major market community. Grand Rapids had it. Muskegon had a big one that's gone now at the Muskegon Beach. You look up pictures of it and go,
Belle
wow,
Isle.
I want to go there. Belle Isle I went there. I went to Belle Isle many times in the
You know,
60s and early 70s.
The irony with this topic was last week, before you even came up with what was going to be discussed, I was looking up Belle Island's amusement park.
Yep.
Because it's a great memory thing. You know, not a lot of people know it existed. And then you gave the list, and I'm like, what's that amusement park? So I started looking. There was a ton.
There was Lake Orion. I mentioned Oxford. It's almost like the sister city to Oxford is Lake Orion over on the east side of the state. They have an island. It's Lake Orion, and on Lake Orion, there's an island.
Huh.
Through 50, 60 years, there was an amusement park. It was the Lake Orion Amusement Park. To get to it, they had it looked like a small version. It looked like a ferry boat, something you'd take to Mackinac Island nowadays. Only these were a little bit more ritzy, and you're only going a block from the shore to the shore. But it was part of the event. Almost all communities had them.
Yeah, I would think that the cost of operations significantly just exploded. And to stay away, obviously, from being political in any way, but regulation. I mean, a lot of these, we're talking 1900s, early 1900s into the 1930s. There weren't seatbelts. There weren't all these safety bars. All this, you have to check it every 10 minutes. All the safety precautions have been put in. That's a high cost of business.
I got to tell you, though, the part, and the folks that hear or watch us, people that are my age will relate to what I'm going to say. The people my age that actually have the internet, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, listen, I for me, it was a lifetime memory of not the amusement park, but frankly, it was times with my grandfather.
Mhm.
My grandparents, grandma and grandpa, they'd take me to Edgewater Amusement Park. My aunt and grandfather would take me.
Did they have to save for months to go?
No, it wasn't crazy
Because
money.
if you want to now, I mean, Deer Park in Muskegon then became Michigan's Adventure, which is now owned by Cedar Fair.
Yep, it wasn't crazy money like it is now.
No, Disney, $120, $140 a day.
Yeah, but I'm looking up dance halls and places that for instance, Bob Seger played at in the 60s.
Yeah.
Rooster Tail was a big place, southeastern Michigan. Seger played there. He played in a bowling alley. He played at a place called the Silver Bell Hideout. Building's gone now. It was a ski lodge with a club.
Oh,
And I'm looking up the tickets. Tickets were $3. Well, compare that when I saw Elton John with my wife, with Miles and his wife, it was $250 a ticket, and we thought we had a good deal.
a ticket?
A ticket.
Oh, now it'd be $1,200 plus $250 in fees.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't want to get politics, but man, I'd much rather see, Bob Seger for $3 than Elton for 500.
Well, yeah, and I would like to be able to go to more than one show a year, right? Like
Yeah.
the idea that you got to see all these people play because it wasn't that it wasn't for money, because let's face it, everything we do is about money. But not somebody else's hand was in it.
Yeah, some of the things though, like I talk about memories with my grandparents, that those memories are not happening for the next generation. I don't want to bemoan it, and I don't want to be political, but holy mackerel, I think that's a I
I
think
forgot
it's a
about Six
mistake.
Flags in Chicago too.
Listen, I've been to Six Flags there. I've been to Six Flags, and I'm talking the early '80s over outside St. Louis, Missouri.
Yep.
Been to some place, I can't remember the name of it now, but it's in southern Indiana.
Oh, Holiday World.
There you are.
Yeah.
It wasn't called that when I was a kid.
Yep, there's Indiana Beach I've been to. I've been to King's Dominion, Busch Gardens, Kings Island,
But
Disney's.
they used to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm opining, but they're really good memories for me. Like the Silverdome. It wasn't just the football game when the Vikings won. It provided good memories.
Yeah, I think if they did more stuff like that, even at Ford Field or Comerica, people would go just for the experience of being on the field
Yep.
of this ginormous building. They'd go to the shows.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I went to all of them for that. All right, we're down to a couple minutes. I got to touch on one more before we run out of time. And I touched on this last week, kind of, sort of. But I'm looking at an ad this week, and I don't have it to share. I should have. But it's it's about General Telephone Company. It was the General Telephone Company of Michigan. They launched a campaign, an ad campaign between 1955 and 57. Their goal was to put a telephone in every room. That was
Yeah.
their goal. So the ad ran, the slick that they used, don't run, just reach out for a convenient telephone.
God.
And they put pictures of phones in every room setting. So you've got a nightstand, obviously. You got a couch, obviously, a TV or a staircase. They wanted a phone in every room.
It's fun. I'm two big things on the phone. One, I remember my parents got the first answering machine. It was 2 tapes. I remember them recording it. And then the next thing with the phone was they got a cord that could reach anywhere in the kitchen.
Yeah.
They
I
weren't
remember
stranded
that.
3 feet away. They could walk all the way around the kitchen.
I remember.
And as a kid, I'd be running around, getting underneath it, and
You ever have a party line?
or you could have like multiple people call.
Or no. So when you have a party line, it's you and somebody else in the community. So if it's your phone, it will double ring, just as an example.
Yep.
If it were just a single ring, that means it's Bob's phone down the street ringing.
No.
Double ring is me, single ring is him.
Oh,
That's you. So you had one phone number, you shared it. Jared, have you used a telephone booth?
No, I have not.
You've never used a telephone booth.
No, I have not.
You ever use a paper map laid out on the seat in your car?
Yeah.
So you go to the gas station, buy a map,
Mhm.
trying to figure out where you're going, and you're lost, and you're on the side of the road, and you're got your your yellow remarker pen or whatever.
Yeah.
or pull out the atlas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and I haven't been lost in years because I do GPS, and away I go, and I'm
Funny, I was looking at a UPS driver this week. Like, man, how bad would that have been before
Yeah.
these? Because I remember MapQuest.
Yeah.
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 Like that was awesome. You could print the directions off until you get to a highway that's closed and you don't know where to go.
But here's the other thing, though. You're right about that. But then the other side of it is if I had to go back there, I didn't need the map because I had to pay attention.
Yeah.
Now-
Route was memorized.
Yeah, you look
now
for
if I don't have the
landmarks.
GPS on, my wife say, "Well, why do you need that? You've been there 3 times." Because I just turn when it tells me to turn. I don't pay any attention.
Plus, the GPS will take me somewhere 12 different ways, 12 different times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't the way I went last time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but the GPS is telling me, so I'm going to listen. If Siri tells me, I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
But man, the fact that
Up in the UP, my wife went camping up there. Final. I think we're out of time. My wife went and grandkids went camping in the UP, and she's using GPS, and it's counting 2 tracks as roads. Got her out in the middle of absolutely nowhere near paved roads.
you know what else it worries me is the GPS doesn't know who I am, so it'll send me a route I may not want to be going.
Yeah, that's how it is. I don't know. Listen, I'm having fun doing this show. As we get further, we're going to get better, so bear with us. In the meantime, thank you very, very much for tuning in. Find us on Facebook at Michigan Memories Radio. We'll see you there, and we'll see you next week. Be safe.